Welcome, everybody. Hope everybody is well and you've joined me tonight for this, what is going to be the last in the Wednesday night series for now. My camera looks a bit on the skew-whiff there, but okay, let's just sort that out. Perfect. Right then, so no one will be with me just yet. Oh, turn that down. Right. A few people in here already. Angela, very, very early, dropping in the love heart. So thank you very much, Angela. Much appreciated for that love. Anybody else that's with us, do drop me down a comment, say hello, hit that thumbs up button, all those good things, make the video, the algorithm notice my video. That would be great. But I hope everyone's well. Who's with us? Okay, Stuart King, good evening, sir. Christos, good evening from Greece. Hello, good evening from Brighton, UK. Who else we got then? Mick, lovely. Good morning. I'm assuming you're in Australia, Mick, or somewhere that's a long way behind. America's about 6 hours behind. It's the afternoon there. Hello from Florida. So it's the afternoon there. Running with Scissors. Like that name. That's a very cool name. Hi there from Washington. Yes, spot on. I thought so much. Who else we got here? We've got Daniel with us. How are you, buddy? From Leeds, West Yorkshire. Now, Daniel, it was you that asked me about the inside out bob. I know exactly how to cut it. I remember exactly what to do. I've spoke to a friend of mine. We are going to do an inside out bob tutorial. Don't worry about that. That is going to happen. Hi, Gary. Hi, Vanessa. Make sure that was you, Daniel. And unless that's a different D Waters. So yes, if that's not you, don't worry about it. I'm just talking rubbish. Somebody did ask. It wasn't me. No, it wasn't you. I think it was somebody else. Similar name. But anyway, hi. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, well, we're going to do an inside out bob technique, as everyone knows now. Hi, Jane. Right then. So we'll give everyone a few more minutes to get here. COVID made my hair long enough to do this. Fair enough. COVID's made a lot of people's hair pretty long. My hair's pretty long at the moment, which I'm not loving, but it's just the way it is. People always say, "Oh, I like your hair when it gets longer," but my hair's too thin, I think, now for having it longer. So yeah. Anyway, such is life. What can I do? I am a male. Unfortunately, I will succumb to male pattern baldness at some stage. Right then, so no more hellos coming through. So let's talk about what we're going to do tonight. Well, as I'm sure some of you, all of you, are aware, that Wednesday nights are through lockdown, with exception to the first Wednesday night, because I was kind of, hi Veronica, I was dreaming up ideas for things to do in lockdown and kind of ways to get creative in lockdown. Just a quick question. Is the audio okay? And if it is, just drop a number one in the comments box. Just number one, if you can hear the audio fine. I'll just double check these things before we get going. Thank you very much, guys. Don't be sorry for being late, Tina. That is okay. Lovely. Thank you very much, guys. That's really, really appreciated. I'm just always like nervous about those things. Good morning, Peter. Good evening, rather. You're in Spain, so it's now 10 o'clock at night. So that's, yeah, it's definitely evening. We missed the first weekend. No, we've missed the first Wednesday, but after that, I did this cut, which is that classic graduated bob shape with the square outline and the graduation in the back. And we're going to cannibalize that today. And we're going to just take it into a whole new stratosphere. Then we did this one, which I have kept only for temporary prosperity, but this kind of more creative, asymmetric, geometric sassoon with the kind of square fringe thing going on. And then today we're going to kind of go all out with kind of manipulation of graduation, disconnection, and a little bit of asymmetry, just for the fun of it. But also, it's not just for the fun of it. It's to kind of I want to kind of explain when I do something creative how I think about it, or the kind of thoughts that go through my mind when I'm going to do something creative. Because like all afternoon, I've come up with probably 5 or 6 different variations, basically, in my mind of a similar thing. I've settled on one now, but I want to kind of come to you with where I took that thought process as I was thinking about what I'm going to do to this creative graduated shape. I'm not going to call it a graduated bob because it doesn't really, you know, it's not classified as a graduated bob really. So what I'm going to do is, as I always do, I just like to split the hair into 4, you know, because I always think of the hair as like 4 separate pieces. 4 quadrants, if you like, especially when we're going to disconnect something. So we've got our front right quadrant, our front left quadrant, we've got our back left and back right quadrant once we've split the hair from pretty much the highest point. So we're going to just put our comb neutral head position, put our comb down on the apex of the head, the highest point, and we're just going to draw a line straight down wherever that transpires to end up. We are going to go with, you know, different ear positions, different head sizes and shapes will all end up with different things. So just push this out of the way. I'll show you this section in just a second. I'm just going to section it off nice and neatly so we can see exactly where we are going with this particular shape. How is everybody? Is everybody having a nice day? If you're having a nice day, then chuck a 0 in there. If you're having an okay day and things aren't going exactly to plan, then put "it's me" in the comments box. I'd love to hear from you. Just love to know how everybody is, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Some of you, your day's finished. Some of you are halfway through your day. Pretty good, not bad. Some decent days out there. Great day, sun was shining. Fantastic. Where are you from, Julie? Peter's saying something. Let's have a quick look. I got cut today. Soft bob. We'll send pic tomorrow. Fantastic. Love to see it. Julie, Bristol. Wow, you had sun today. Amazing. Down in Brighton, we had no sun. Preparing for Thanksgiving. Lovely. Far northwest corner of the USA. Fantastic. Sun shining here too. Very, very nice. I wish I'd have seen some sun today. It was pretty much trying to rain all day here in Brighton, which was well, one of those things. New Zealand. Hello, New Zealand. Fantastic. So we just split the hair into 2 front quadrants. Now, even if I'm going to do a side parting, which I'm in this particular instance, I still don't worry about that until it kind of happens. And what I mean by that is that, you know, so for instance, in this back, I'm going to graduate the back, but I'm certainly not going to take on the whole back section in one go because it's just too much hair. So I'm going to take a center profile section through, and I'm not going to go, I don't have to run this section all the way down to the nape. I quite often see people taking sections. Hi, Tammy, you all right? Yes, from Australia. Good morning. Quite often see people taking all the way to the perimeter when they know, or you know, they're going to take a section from maybe the parietal ridge of the occipital bone or wherever they're going to take the section, but you know, taking the section all the way through to the center back is kind of not necessary. So always take your sections. I guess what I'm saying is don't make yourself work. You know, I see a lot of times when I'm teaching people lots of unnecessary steps being taken. You know, lots of things that are kind of extra work that don't add anything. Now, if you're going to do extra work and it adds something, then, well, amen, go for gold. Hi, Steve. Yes, I'm very well. Thank you very much, my friend. How are you? What we're going to do now is take another horizontal section from the kind of bottom set, like the apex of the occipital bone would be there, and we'll just come down to the bottom of the apex of the occipital bone. So we're just going to mirror that on the opposite side over this way. Make sure that's square. Not quite. I'm not feeling that section. We're going to take it again. Just clip it nice and neatly out of the way. Make sure your sections are tidy, guys, so you can see exactly where you're going, where you're coming from. Now, what we're going to do with this haircut, I'm going to give you a little insight into where we're going to go with it. We're going to split this section probably about there. I say probably about there because we're doing something creative. You know, we need to have some flexibility in our minds, and we're going to cut this panel down pretty short. That panel's I'm going to crop that panel off pretty much. And what I want to do is part the hair from the left side over to the right side, and we're going to sit this side into like a bob shape. But what I then need to think about is my section high enough? Because if we section below the parietal ridge, or if this hair wants to live below the parietal ridge, when we sweep our hair over, it's forever going to want to fall down. And that is really something to think about when we take our sections. Where we put our sections is really, really important. So I'm going to take my section at the top of the parietal ridge there with a slight diagonal coming down. That's it in terms of pre-sections for this moment in time. I am going to do a similar pre-section on this side. But I haven't 100% decided on that because I haven't decided how flat I want this side to be. So, you know, when we're being creative, remember it's, you know, when, I don't know if anybody watches anyone paint or, you know, artists on TV. I watch the Sky Art channel all the time. You know, and when you watch people painting live, I'm just looking at the questions that have come through. When you people watch, you know, they change things. Work smarter, not harder. Exactly. They change things. You know, like they'll be like, oh no, we're just gonna, you know, and they'll just tweak things. And that's kind of how I work when I work creatively. You know, I know what I want to create, but you know, I want to kind of move with that. Does it make any difference if the client has got side parting and if you cut in the central profile? Only, oh, yes and no. Depends on the shape. You know, like if you're going to cut something very, very graphic and geometric, you probably want to cut to the parting. But if you're going to cut something very kind of even, and you're going to cut something very classic, like when I very first cut this particular shape, I cut it in the center parting. But for the pictures and for the kind of after video that I made, I styled it in the side parting, and it was very much, you know, it was even. You know, it was a smidgen longer over on the heavier side. And of course, if you wanted to adjust that, then you could once it was dry and refine it a bit shorter. Personally, actually like the sort of slightly asymmetry in the front. But obviously, you've got to have the clients that will go with that. So, but if they don't go with that, then obviously be my guest, take it a bit shorter. Got my endpoint assessment on the 11th or the 18th. Very good, Steve. And I just saw there that you're going to get the salon ready for the opening. Yeah, we can open our salons here on the 2nd of December. Okay, right then. Let's just see if we're all happy with what's going on here. Move that a touch closer. I'm going to bring you guys in a little bit. Tilt you down. Tilt you down. Oh, we're attached. Hold on a minute. Let's just do that again. Oh, that's better actually. No, that's good. No, that works for me. That's working for me. Right then. So we're going to do two kind of different graduated shapes, I suppose. You know, we're going to manipulate the graduation here somewhat, and work with a very different, two different graduations that seamlessly blend in the middle. So what we're going to do is take a center profile section. I'm going to cut our graduated line. Now, this graduated line, the very, very, very first section that we cut, will really be the be all and end all in terms of, you know, what we do to the haircut. It always is the be all and end all. In most haircuts, we have to decide at this point what we're going to do with this line. It's really going to affect the whole shape. So I'm going to still stick with a slightly head down, 45-degree angle, and just cut a graduated line into the nape area like so. I just realized my arm was in the way there. Sorry about that, guys. I'll just show you that section from the side. So we've got a 45-degree angle tilting down. All right, how are we going to do this so you can see what I'm doing? Right then, hopefully this will be better. Okay, so I'm going to work this left side first. Now, with this left side, what I'm aiming to do is get as much of this length remaining as possible. So I want this to be longer going down towards that corner. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a diagonal section, okay, just like so. I'm going to pick up my hair and I'm going to over direct it to the center. Now, ideally, my body position would be behind this section, but for the sake of demonstration and you guys being able to see, I'm going to stand off to the side, but I'm going to be very conscientious of over directing each of these sections back towards the center. Now remember, don't cut past that second knuckle, guys, because your tension changes a lot at that point. The tension changes because you can't get your comb, well, it depends on your fingers, but I can't get my comb through that point, but through there, my comb goes through super easily. And of course, that really does change things. Next diagonal section. And remember, over directing it all back to the center section. I'm just going to double check at this point. Yep, that is over directed back to the center section. And we're just following that initial guide that we cut in. And we can see that we're building up shape here very, very quickly at this point, you know, and that will leave the maximum length in this corner. Next section, diagonal section, over directed back to the center. Just like so. Final section, over directed back. Same cutting line, same cutting angle, just tons of over direction, working down towards that bottom corner. So we can see that graduated line now, one length in the behind the ear, which is exactly what I want it to do. Because when I take this side away, I want this to be like emphasized, this area to kind of bend forward like that. And that's why I wanted to over direct it so far. So I really retained all that length in that corner. Let's have a look at the questions. Where are we? Does it make any difference if the client has a side parting? Okay, no, there's no. I've answered that one. If that made sense to you, by the way. Hi Paul, you all right, mate? If that made sense to you, that question about the centre parting, side parting arrangement, then do let me know. Right then, so we've got this side, we've got a very, very steep graduated angle because we over directed everything back to the center. So it's really, really kind of fast, got a very, very heavy, very fast. We wanted that one length in that corner. Now with this side, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pivot our sections again, but we're not going to over direct our sections. We're going to simply hold the hair. We're going to go upside down this time, but remember we're cutting something that is slightly asymmetric, so we don't need to do the same thing on the same side both times. We can do something different because we're producing something different. And remember, we're going to keep that same diagonal section traveling forward, finger angle the same, but each section is going to come straight out from where the head shape, where it lives, where the hair lives on the head shape. Just like so. And remember, by not over directing, just anybody quickly put in the comments now, by not over directing each of the sections back to the center, what will eventually happen to the shape? Pop it in the comments. Anybody know? Let's see what people have come up with. Gets holes. It can get holy. That's really where this has started to go round the head shape. So it's going that way. So let's just have a little look, because we do want this side shorter than the opposite side, but not necessarily wholly. Because remember, I've still got a 45-degree finger angle, and I'm pulling the hair straight back out from the head shape where the hair lives. So I'm unlikely to get a hole, but because I'm pulling the hair rather than I'm bringing everything back to the center and making a really heavy shape, will it get shorter? Yes, it will. Layering, no. Not too much weight. Good, Christos. Take corner off. Square shape. Gary, yes, you've hit the nail on the head. It's a square graduation. We're still graduating, but our finger angle, and I'm going to show you in a minute exactly the difference between the two. So, because we're going to have complete visual representation. This is, if anybody's heard of it, square graduation. Now these sections are coming straight back to our graduated line. Now if we traveled round the head, then we would create a hole. You're absolutely right. Whoever said you would make a hole, you're bang on the money there. But if we make sure that our section still comes straight back, straight out from the head shape, we're still cutting to our invisible square line, we won't end up with a hole here. We'll end up with a square graduated shape. So if we look at it, if we cross-check, because I do need to cross-check. So if we cross-check, a little bit of scissor over comb maybe, just elevate it straight out and have a little look. Or we can cross-check through our fingers. Depends on speed, depends on time, depends on lots and lots of different things. A little bit off there, can you see that? So I'm going to show you how to fix that. So we're going to come back in at that point, just where the hair jumped slightly, and we'll be able to see that basically my tension changed. Just in there, I've slipped past my guide. My tension changed at that point. And so therefore I got what is in effect a finger mark. Get rid of that. Perfect. So this side, remember, we're going to cut in that square bob shape. We're going to eliminate a lot of this kind of weight in there. Okay, so we've got visual representation of both sides now. We've got this side that is very, very heavy, and this side, which is much flatter. So this is square graduation, and this is a rounder graduation because it's round in that way. It's square that way, but it's rounding that way. It's square in its concept. Sorry, it's square coming backwards, but everything is pulled so far to the middle. So we've gone from. I'm going to get a picture up. Actually, I've got a picture of this. Just, I think it's going to be easier for everyone to. Did you lose tension? Yes, I lost tension. That's why we got that finger mark. Did this on my mum. Lovely job. I mean, behind the ear. Yes. Yeah, you can end up with a hole behind the ear, providing if you don't over direct these sections square straight out from the head shape. Remember, we're cutting a square line and a graduated line at the same time, then we would end up with a big kind of hole here. This is going to blend in perfectly to the line that we're going to create through the front here. Right then, where did I see this? Let me just grab this picture because I think for me, this is a really good representation of what I'm trying to. Very, very useful. Do you know what I mean? That's always the way, isn't it? When you want something to load fast, it just won't. Ah, here we go. Okay, let's bring this up. Right, I wonder if we can see this, everybody. Right, we're going to go to the graduation side. This is basically square graduation. And then on the opposite side, I've cut triangular graduation, this kind of shape. So we've got this very, very square shape being produced here. Square that way, square that way. And with this side, we've over-directed everything back to the middle and created a graduated line. And so we've created this triangular shape that's dropping down through here. So hopefully that representation makes sense to you. Okay, so next sections. What we're going to do is take our section we took it here. We're going to split this section horizontally across the head shape from between where the crown would be, just below the crown area, about an inch below the crown area. Obviously, I'm a very big advocate of doing things crown areas dry, but there is other options with crown areas and kind of how we manage them, etc. And another way of doing is not cutting it under too much tension, basically. So we can use the wider end of our comb and not create so much tension on our section when we're cutting our graduated shapes through this side. And that is kind of another way of combating, if you like, the tension issues around stretching hair that wants to grow in all sorts of different directions. Basically, keeps length at the front. Yes, yeah. All graduated shapes keep length at the front. So, because a graduated shape is effectively a manipulation of over direction. We're over directing the hair back to create length going forward. But we've created here two types of graduation. One that is much flatter here and one that is much heavier here. If we can see the difference between the two, just to comb that down, this one runs off really quickly, really heavily, whereas this shape is a lot flatter in our profile there. Maybe if we look at it from that side, maybe that helps. It's a lot flatter and it comes round and down a lot faster. So we're going to, manipulate our hairline to do something creative at the end. But that's just to give you an idea of why we've done what we've done, basically, just to kind of show that by changing the angle slightly, what can happen. Because we've done two classic shapes, more or less. I know the second one I made a bit more creative. but we've done a mixture of haircuts, but always kind of focused on classic form, even. But at this point, I wanted to kind of go down a bit of a creative rabbit hole for a flurry of interest. So we're going to do exactly the same thing we did with our previous section. We're going to cut our profile section in square, straight out from the head shape. And then we're going to take a diagonal section and we're going to over direct that section to that middle section and cut a square line. So I'm just going to turn it this way. This time you'll be able to see my finger angle, not so much of the over direction. Now, in terms of how I'm pulling the hair out from the head, the last graduated shape we talked about, I talked about pulling it out square from the head shape and having the top of the section horizontal relative to the floor, 90 degrees, like so. But in this particular instance, we're going to keep things heavier. So I'm going to pull the hair. Let's just get this angle just right so you can see. I'm going to pull this hair out at 45 degrees from the head shape. So we've got like this. And I've got cutting angle of 45 degrees, and that's going to make things heavier. Now the tendency then is to kind of get a weightier corner where our two haircuts meet, where our two graduated shapes meet, right here. So we do need to be mindful that we are creating enough elevation with our sections, and if we're not sure, we can just pick it up and kind of lift and sort of scissor over comb through our fingers, I guess, to make sure that it's sitting in really nicely and we're not building up kind of this weight line through that point. So our next section, remember we're sticking with diagonals and we're over directing everything back to the center point. Finger angle 45 degrees, hair 45 degrees, and we're just pulling everything down, because remember we want to create that length right there. So final section, pull everything back to the middle. It may not reach the middle if your client's hair's a bit more layered or whatever. This will reach the middle. One of the guys that taught me to cut hair many moons ago said, haircuts don't have to be symmetric, they have to be beautiful, which I thought was a very good, took a lot of pressure off me when I was younger, because I was really kind of conscious about making everything exact, like I've got a slightly kind of engineering brain, if you like, and I really wanted everything to be the same, both sides within millimeters of one another, but it took many years for me to kind of grow out of that. So there's our graduated shape in this side, which looks very pretty. Let's see if we've got any questions come through. Right, let's roll back a little bit. Hello, Jamie, by the way, from Melbourne. Tammy Warren. So, James, what would the difference be if you took vertical sections and not diagonals? Preference in a lot of ways. I mean, I could cut this shape vertically, should I want to. If I wasn't going to take pivoting sections like that, what I find when I'm cutting graduated shapes and I'm taking pivoting sections is that I tend to go first one straight out from the head, second one over directed onto the first one, but it's when I get around here, I've got a much more tendency. The tendency is to kind of come in with a lower finger angle, and I realize I'm cutting this line that is then traveling long to short. Whereas when you've got a vertical angle, you're using over direction to create that weight that travels forward. And so therefore your visual representation of your angle kind of gets lost. You're more reliant on trusting that very first angle that you took and pulling everything straight back to create the shape. Whereas when I'm using pivoting sections and I'm pivoting round, eventually I'm going to start seeing that my fingers are pointing in the direction where I want my haircut to go. Does that make sense? I hope that explains that for you. Basically keeps length in the front. Perfect. Right then. There, next question. Okay, Lenny says that was your question. Yes, exactly. And it's more uncomfortable vertical. Yeah, it is more uncomfortable vertical, but in a lot of ways, and the reason we did the vertical sections for the last two haircuts is because if you're learning to cut graduation, it's really easy to say to someone, hold your fingers at 45 degrees, point your fingertips towards the ceiling, and just stick in that one shape throughout the entire haircut, making sure you're pulling the hair straight back towards you with your body position straight behind the client or mannequin or whatever you're cutting. Right, so final section on this side. Just going to drop it down into here. Now I think what I'm going to do is just use the wide teeth of my combs here. I'm going to blend straight in, not like we've been doing in this last couple of lives that I've done where we've kind of gone in and softened. We're just going to use the very, very wide teeth of the comb and cut our graduation straight in. Use your pivoting section. So my next section now is, and there's a lot, it's a wide section effectively, but it's this section here. And we're going to just over direct it back to the center. I think I've said this in every live, but we're going to have to excuse the missing tooth out of this comb. This is the only comb that I brought from work, and subsequently was combing through a mannequin head and snapped a tooth off. One of my pet hates, missing tooth on a comb. What can we do? We're supposed to be locked in our houses. Right then, and then this final section, over direct it back to the center. Make sure our over direction is all good. Perfect. Right, before I go and do the other side now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this side. I was dying to ask about the comb. Yeah. No, there's nothing special about it. It's just a pain in the ass. Loving the lives, mate. We should collab. You cut, I'll colour. Yes, that is a great idea, Paul. That is a fantastic idea. So anybody that doesn't know Paul, Paul's got a fantastic YouTube channel, which is the channel that he's on this live on, Paul Watts Hair. He's also got a vlogging channel where he'll take you to Ibiza on holiday. Massive house fan. So before I just go and whack this off unmercilessly, I'm going to take a vertical section that mirrors the hairline and cut a graduated line. I think I've had like one too many coffees today. I'm just a little bit shaky. I'm normally a little bit shaky, but this evening I'm like extra special. I'm extra specially shaky. Second section, over directed onto the first one. So I'm going to take this section and pull it on to the first one. I'm going to maintain that finger angle that I had, that graduation. So by over directing the hair forward and steep finger angle, we're going to create lots of shape in this front section. Now I might cut this a little bit shorter. You know, these things evolve, especially when we're talking like going really, really creative, you know, and we're kind of wanting things to be a bit more show worky, you know, a bit more out there. You know, you probably might not do this on your client. I've got some clients that would definitely wear this type of haircut. I'm just very fortunate that I've managed to talk them into different things over the years. But you know, if you don't start somewhere, then you never will, you know. So it's really, really important to kind of stay creative, you know, and encourage creativity, and you'll find creative clients that way. Over directing all that hair there to that front line, just to build up the shape. And it's just to explore the shape a bit, you know, rather than just whacking hair off willy-nilly. Saying to ourselves, okay, you know, do we like that graduated, round graduated shape around the front here, kind of running into, is that something we want to achieve? Is that something that looks cool, you know? Because kind of creativity can be made by accident sometimes, you know? The mother of a lot of inventions was accidents, you know, penicillin, for instance. You know, they were looking for something else and they discovered penicillin instead. So it's deciding, you know, what we want to create. You know, if we say to ourselves, well, you know, subjectively, you know, to a lot of people, they'll be like, no, I'm not sure about that. But I'm going to leave it like that until I kind of get later into my haircut. Because if I whack it off now, you know, I'm stuck then, aren't I? I've got nowhere to go with it. Got absolutely nowhere to go with it. So onto this side. This is our kind of flatter side. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a section that runs straight through the parietal ridge, straight through to the front. I'm going to have a look at the questions in a second. I'm kind of neglecting the questions tonight, having fun being creative. Right then, let's see what's happening. The vibes, love it. You're the bee's knees. Please do stop doing these. No, I don't plan to stop doing them for sure. Okay, so what we're now going to do is we're going to kind of go square with our sections, and we're going to utilize the shortest part of our graduation. Pull out our section. So we're going to have the top of our graduation as our guide. There it is, right there. And we're going to pull this section straight out from the head shape. Next section. Now the only difference we're going to do now is we're going to pull each section to the previous. I'm going to show you what that means in just a second. So it's each section, so this section number 2 has gone on to number 1, but number 3 will go on to number 2. So I'll try and show you that. So number 3 is going to be pulled back to where number 2 came out from the head shape. And we can see that this whole side, we put the two together, and they don't blend at the moment, but that's okay because I've got a plan for all that. There's what the shears I'm using. Good question. Passion Cobalt ARCs. Next section, 4th section, on to the 3rd section. fourth section. Now this section, everything changes. This is the last section at the back hairline. So we're going to pull section 5 onto section 4. So we've still built up shape. Can you see here? We've still built up shape towards the corner, even though we're cutting a much, much flatter shape. The profile of that shape is just so much flatter. So it's a really, really different kettle of fish in terms of how we create these shapes. You know, and we've got a graduated shape most definitely, but we've got a much, much flatter graduated shape than what we've got on this side. Okay, right, so where do things change from here? Well, from this point, the point where behind the ear everything changes, we're going to take a diagonal forward section, hit this little beauty out of the way, and then we're going to elevate our sections straight up. Hello, I'm back. Am I back? Please say I've come back. Woohoo! Sorry about that, guys. Ah, my goodness me. Sorry. Thank you for everybody that was patient with me there. I do no idea what happened. Just internet went mad. My internet's been really, really bad lately. Right then, so I didn't do anything else. I don't know where you got to, you guys, but basically I was talking about my graduation and then I was on about moving on to this section. So I moved back of my section. Hopefully some of you guys will catch back up and yeah, sorry about that. You know, internet, what can I say? Can't control that. Lots of things I can control, but not the internet. I like what Christoph said about coronavirus affecting this now. Perfect. Nice one, Christos. Scrolling back a little bit, that means you're going with a traveling guide and elevating towards the center profile. Exactly that. Exactly that. That was a great question. Do you ever get the urge to try out lots of different cutting techniques on clients who just want a basic layer uniform? Yes, I do, Zoltan. Sometimes I go crazy. Does over-directing to the previous section build up weight slowly as opposed to each section square? Exactly that, my friend. Yeah, a slower build-up of weight. And also something that is kind of more, it travels around the head a little bit more, it follows the head shape a little bit more, but it still builds up weight towards wherever you are over-directing away from. So obviously, if you're over-directing in this direction, it starts to build up weight towards the back of the ears. So that is a very, very good point there, my friend. Thank you for that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to elevate, and hopefully you guys can see that there's like a guide for me to cut to there. We're going to elevate our section and we're going to cut square. And this is going to remove some of the bulk, some of the weight from our perimeter. And we're going to do this with pivoting sections. So we're going to pivot from the same point. We're going to elevate the hair straight up from the head shape. We've got a nice obvious guideline there to cut to. I'm going to cut that square line. And then our final section. And remember, we're just elevating this all up, straight up from the head shape. And we're cutting that corner away. So that very, very first section, that's just going to remove some of the bulk from the perimeter. If we look at what that creates in terms of shape internally, it's just created a square line effectively. Right, see if there's any questions come through, Gary. No, that was a great, less bulky around the ears, this shape. Yes, exactly, pivot point. I see that you did there. Haha. Yes, pivot point. Yeah, although this isn't a pivot point head, I don't think. No, this is not a pivot point head. So there wasn't even a subliminal plug for pivot point there. Right then, so we're going to take down our horseshoe section, or half a horseshoe section equivalent. Yeah. But we can see the profile of this shape. You can see how slim it is, how head hugging it is, and how much of the weight we've taken away. Now this top section, once we drop it down, our graduation starts to look very, very similar again. Yeah, because we've got a disconnection over the top, we've got this graduation shape that actually looks pretty much identical, but we've got a much fatter shape hidden underneath here. Okay, now what we're going to do with that later, well, we will decide later, but what we're going to do at this point is actually dry it. I'm going to do a bit of layering and stuff to lighten up this front shape. I'm going to do all that dry because I really like to dry cut hair as well as wet cut it. So you see, like this bit of hair, for instance, it doesn't want to live there, it wants to live here. Like on a client, you know, I'd say to them, right, well, it's probably not going to work having it like that. So, you know, we'll be better off if we take that bit of hair and we incorporate that bit of hair into the graduation around the sides. I've got a feeling like I'm going to probably scissor over comb this bit off, but we'll see. We'll see. Because I want it to sit nicely, but I want it to be quite geometric. In fact, just looking into this shape now and just sort of seeing, do I want it to do that? Maybe. Maybe that's how I want it to sit, you know? Like that. That looks good, actually. Okay, drying time. This is where I want to click my fingers and have it dry, because I don't know why, I always feel. Wrap drying technique. We've got a little, what's it called? What are these called? Mason and Pearson hairbrush here. You just dry the hair in the direction you want it to sit, you know, the way you think you might want it to be, you know? Firefly-esque, yes. Very Firefly-esque, Paul. A contemporary Firefly. Hi, Sean. Just love wrap drying techniques. I don't know what your favorite. Tell me in the comments. What's your favorite blow drying technique? I love to wrap dry. How about you? What's your favorite drying technique? Round brushing, puddle brushing. What is it? You tell me in the comments. round, mainly use paddle, wrapping, and leafing. Yep, cool, round, yep, wrap dry. Sorry, that message went too long. Could you show from the front when you pivoted the long side finger angle? Yes, I think so. The right hand side, Angela. If you could you say yes or no? The right hand side where I pivoted the sections from one central point. Well, let's have a look. Bum, 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 bum. Let me just see. Yes, I don't know if you heard me, Angela, when I was blow drying. Do you mean this side where I pivoted round, the finger angle for that? Is that what you meant? Just so that I can give you the right information. I'm intrigued how this will turn out. Fair enough. Yeah, so am I, Zoltan. I'm still not. I like creativity in the sense that you just do things. You're just vibing with it. You're just working on it. You might not work on a client like this, but when I've done lots of show work in the past, you know, you've got a good idea. I thought about this all afternoon in terms of how I'm going to go about this haircut and what I'm going to do and how it's going to turn out. And there's so many things that I've thought about this afternoon in terms of shapes and technique and showing off techniques and kind of getting people to understand different techniques. Because I want it to be educational as well, not just about me kind of showing off in terms of cutting hair in a one particular fashion or another. Um, so I wanted to kind of fit in lots of different graduation shapes and you know and show people how to bring them all together as well. And generally, when you bring these things together, Zoltan or anybody else that thought of that too, short fringe maybe, yeah, that could happen. That could happen. But like at this point, when we've kind of cut in our primary shape, if you like, everything that we wanted to do in terms of creating shape, then we say to ourselves, okay, now it's kind of the dry cutting phase, the phase of the haircut where we decide how we're going to best work the entire rest of our haircut. And generally speaking, these are like the longest parts of if you're working on a sort of photo shoot or something where this is going to be commercially used, end up doing a lot of work, a lot of refining, and a lot of changing the shape and manipulating the shape as we work through. So it's a really, really important thing to bear in mind that, a lot of the work you see when talking about kind of creative haircuts, lots of things change from the conceptual shape that you're cutting in the beginning to what you end up with in the end. And that's the same not just with haircuts. When I used to work on photographic editorial stuff, what we walked in the morning thinking we were going to create generally wasn't what we ended up making. What the way the hair fell and the way the hair sat wasn't working very well, and we thought to ourselves, we've got to change our tune here. We've got to create something new. We've got to do it quickly. So I remember working a very famous shampoo brand, a non-professional shampoo brand advert, and it had a very, very famous singer in the advert, and the hair looked amazing on the advert, but behind it all, it was being held up with like sticks and all sorts of things, nothing to do with actual hairdressing. If she actually moved, it would have just fallen down. But in the advert, she looked fantastic. So that is definitely something to bear in mind. I'm just going to have a little look at some of the questions in a minute. Have a little look at some of the questions. Looks amazing. This technique is flawless. Thank you very much. So kind. All right, go back. Let's have a look. Sean C. I love doing my mum's blow dry with the classic round brush from my training back in the 80s. Wonderful. I'm sure your mum loves you for that, Sean. I'm intrigued how this will turn out. It's good. Denman or round brush. Perfect. Nice one, Mickey. I will have to Google dry. Nice. I've not done a wrap drying video before. It's something I always meant to do, just never done it. Maybe a short fringe, got that far. Sean C. I missed some of this product, of the products used from the back in the day. Weller, Sassoon products, professional, classic Redkin. What products do you miss using? Good question. Think about that for a second, Sean. All tits up with... Oh, Macron's death. Yes. Maradona's death. Sorry. Yes. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, that would send your. Have you finished with the round brush from Sassoon James? It's a great smoothing brush when blow drying. Have you ever tried? Yes, I have. I've got it in my actual kit at home. At work, I just don't have it here at home. Would you like to send Bob cut picture of my friend? Excuse me, please. Yes, I would love to see that. Send it to me on Instagram if you want, which is at the Life of Hair 1. Alternatively, you could send it to me over on my Facebook. If you want to add me on Facebook and send me a DM to let me know you've added me, which is just James Atkinson. I'm quite happy to have people over there. I don't really use Facebook like most people do for friends. Perfect. Good. Right, we're up to speed. Right, good. Right then, quickly blast this off. Right, we're going to quickly run over it with the old irons just to make it a bit smoother. Right then. You're very welcome. Right then. Let's give it a little straighten before we get into our kind of refining phase. How we're going to bring this haircut all together. So this side, you know, where we created that pivoting section and we've kind of got a little disconnection going on. It's fantastic for clients with thick hair, you know, using that square graduated technique that we use through the back. It really, really does work wonders on clients with really, really thick hair. You know, the trick is not to go too aggressive at it and kind of create, you know, too much disconnection within the shape, because then you can create expansion and weight where you didn't want it necessarily. Have a little look at some of the questions in a second. The real joy of this as well is because obviously, you know, when we don't kind of express ourselves creatively, as we can feel a little bit kind of stale, can't we? And then, you know, it's very, very easy for us to, you know, end up feeling a bit bored and etc. etc. But we don't have to necessarily express ourselves creatively on a person. You know, just buying a mannequin head and, you know, being creative on that and just doing some fun stuff with that is just as satisfying, I believe, as kind of doing something really, really cool and quirky on a person. There's a really interesting Instagram account called The Flying Barber. I keep meaning to make videos about cool Instagrams that I really like, but he does like all of his creativity really on mannequin heads. And there's another one, but I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I can't help people with that. But maybe I'll just post it in the comments actually down below afterwards, and kind of give you his Instagram handle. But he's he's an amazing avant-garde hairdresser, and he's actually up for British avant-garde hairdresser of the year at the moment. But all of his collection is on wig blocks, which I think is absolutely fantastic. In fact, Paul might know his name actually. Paul Watts, that's in this live now. Maybe he's still with us after my internet dilemma. But yeah, another fantastic. But the Flying Barber, he does a lot of his, well, he does all of his photographic stuff on mannequin heads and makes them all look very kind of spooky with some cool photography. But yeah, we don't have to be creative just because it's a person and that that person's going to wear that. We can be creative, and especially we can learn about being creative on mannequin heads, because effectively, it's not going to matter how it grows out. Creative haircuts don't grow out amazingly well, generally speaking. Anyway, I mean, if you can make a creative haircut grow out well, I think you've really hit the nail on the head. That's why kind of commercial shapes are what they are. They're there because they just fit the bill. They'll grow out nicely. There's only really kind of 9 to 11, maybe 12 basic haircuts that we end up cutting over and over and over and over and over again all throughout our careers. So yeah, it's really, really important to remember that things are here. They're tools. Mannequin heads are tools. I know lots of people poo-poo mannequin heads. Lots of stylists are like, oh, it's done on a mannequin head. That's no good. It's done on a mannequin head. Well, I can assure you, for somebody that has cut thousands and thousands and thousands of mannequin heads, I couldn't disagree with them more if I tried. I think that mannequin heads are literally kind of some of the cornerstones of our learning. Right, let's read some of those comments. Let's read some of those comments quickly before we bring this all together. What we got here then? So, yeah, what products do I miss using? Crikey, I don't know, Sean. Actually, that's a difficult one for me. Not a lover of products. I don't mind them, but I don't love them. Do you remember Terry Wogan dryer? Still have one. Terry who? Terry Wogan. Terry Wogan. If you're not from England, you won't know who Terry Wogan is probably. But Terry Wogan must be tired. No, I don't actually. My God, that was funny. Well, James, you are so good. Thank you very much. That's very kind. Michelle Winter, what mannequin head do you use, please? Send me a comment and I will send you the link. They are linked in all of the descriptions on my videos, the mannequin heads that I tend to use. They're just from Amazon. They're not that expensive. So let's just have a little look at here. So we've got this area here now where we've got this brush. I really like this kind of swept back thing. And what I want to do is I want to create some connection. I'm going to come across the front now. I want to create some connection from that hair to this long hair beneath. So I'm going to pick up my hair just randomly, and from where the short hair starts, I'm just going to scoop out the hair, just really kind of visually, just like that. And then start to kind of remove some of the bulk of this hair, still retaining that together, taking those 4 quadrants and kind of bringing them all together at this point. So when we get creative, we don't have to kind of go too much with the rules. We can just say to ourselves, I really want to do this. I want to create this kind of shape, this kind of look, this kind of, we can just pick bits up and just cut them as we see fit. I want that a little bit tighter. I want to emphasize this length here. And then to enhance that emphasis, I'm just going to carve in the hairline here. Because I want the hair to be longer in that direction, I'm not going to come back and cut it that way because we want to push the hair away from us. I want it to be longer going away from me. Just like that. Right then, where are we at then? What was your first pair of scissors? 4.5s. Mine were 4.5s. They were 4.5 Casio's. And I had a 4.5 pair of Joelle Classics as well, exactly like you. Do you ever swap scissors and work with a razor? I do a little bit of razor work sometimes. I'm not like a massive fan of razor work. I am quite, I was very lucky. I got trained by a really kind of guy with a razor who did some amazing razor work. So I do understand it, and I do plan to make some videos on it, probably in 2021 now, most definitely. You know, in terms of how I feel about razors, I think they're good. They're a tool, you know, and anything that's a tool that's going to create something different and interesting and a new shape or a new something that I can't create with a pair of scissors, maybe. And I'm definitely up for using. I'm definitely up for trying these things. And yeah, I like a bit of razor work. I just don't do it a lot, actually. I don't really do it on the shop floor very much. I don't feel like here in the UK, razor work is very, very popular with the clients. You know, as soon as you bring out a razor here in the UK, they start panicking a little bit. So I'm going to do the similar thing over on this side. But on this side, I'm going to be a bit more aggressive with how high I take this line. Yeah. Just clean that up a bit. Now we have to decide, do we want to curve our line or do we want a disconnection? I'm thinking disconnection. Just come in here a little bit. I always go very quiet when I start refining anything, because you know it's like a sort of, this is it now, you know, it's got to bring it all together at this point. And I also have like this issue where I could end up refining something for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And I'm sure, as much as you may enjoy this live, watching me create thousands of tiny bits of hair for hours will get boring eventually. Very difficult to cut on the cheek of a mannequin head, so we'll raise it up. Cut it through the teeth of our comb as close as we can get to zero elevation. And remember, because we cut this side a lot flatter, even though we're cutting a very, very heavy square line, we haven't got the same amount of bulk on this line because we took some of the weight away with our layers underneath. Lovely. And we've got this weighty area here. Minder here. Thank you, Zoltan. Very seems like a more American. Yeah, I mean, yeah, razor. I don't know if razor cutting. I do see a lot more American YouTube videos talking about razor cutting. Lots of barbers do. Lots of barbers do razor cutting over here. You know, things like this, I always like to leave just little bits on, you know, just and think to myself, do I want that? Is that something that I want? Okay, can't decide. Leave it on, work around it, and then I think to myself, okay, it's probably just the fact that it's a bit too heavy that, you know, it's not gelling with me. Probably just needs a little bit more tweaking. Yeah, that's better. Lovely. Right then, we're getting somewhere now. What are we saying over here? I almost bit my lip off waiting to see if you kept that long bit or snipped it off. Could I do a video about talking about pricing? Yes, I could. Not amounts, but the concept. Yes, I can do that because I have a can I use clippers? Yes, you can use clippers for this kind of thing. When I kind of properly go over this, because I'll be here all evening doing this if you let me, but I'm going to do it to 99%, and then I'll probably go over it with some mini trimmers and, you know, mess around with it like that. Once I'm off air, I want to keep this down to about an hour and a half. So where are we at now? 88 minutes. So yeah, we're not far away from where I was kind of knock it on the head. Yeah. So mini trimmers, yeah, for clippers, really good. You know, helps to refine, makes refining a little bit easier. Yes, Daniel, I can do a video on the concept of pricing. I've got a brilliant concept about pricing actually. even if I say so myself. It's one that I came up with some years ago, and it really, really helped me. And it doesn't matter where you're located in the world, geographically, or how much you charge normally, the concept is the same. So yeah, I'd love to deliver that at some stage. What was the other question that was asked there? Oh yeah, Daniel, by the way, Inside Out Bob video is definitely happening. 100%. I've been phoned up a few friends and someone reminded me exactly how to do it. And actually, I'd just forgotten it was called the Inside Out Bob technique. It's just a pretty long time since I actually cut it. So yeah, I will be doing that Inside Out Bob technique at some stage. So just sort of general refining now. We can go over that outline I could go over that outline for the next 45 minutes, but I'm not going to, because it's just going to get, monotonous. And then I would just probably, unless I wanted to keep this shape really heavy, I'd probably just go in with a deep point cutting technique just to create a bit of movement, maybe a bit of channel cutting, which I'll do in a second, just to kind of loosen up the shape a little bit. Just vertical sections, elevate the hair straight up. Bit of deep point cutting just to loosen the shape a little bit, just to create a little bit more looseness. And just got a little tiny bit of weight on my graduated shape there. So rather than point cutting that, I'm going to show you how to scissor over comb your graduation. So there's a tiny weight line there. I don't even know if you can be able to see it there. Maybe you can. I'm just looking at my screen now to see if you can see that. Right, I'm not sure you can see it. I'm looking at my screen, but anyway, hopefully you can. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the point where my weight line is, and I'm just going to scissor over comb that weight line away, rather than point cutting. Because this is, so going in and sort of disturbing it with point cutting always feels like a sort of bit of a crime when you've kind of gone to all the trouble of creating something absolute, and then, you then go and scissor over comb it half to death, thin it half to death to get rid of any lines out of it. So yeah, just got rid of that line, that weight line just there with that. And then just, working my way around this shape. Remember, I've got a disconnection here from my shape previous there, where we built up the graduation. So try not to blend that in too much. You want to keep that disconnected, because that disconnection is helping the back shape look all together, as if both sides are the same. A little bit of weight there on that graduation line there. Just chop that off. That's it. Perfect, Next section, just straight down behind the ear. Elevate the hair straight up. You've got that big disconnection going on inside that shape. Now you can see where we held that hair up and we cut that square line underneath. You can see that coming through there now. Just going to come in and refine hair above that. Lovely job. Next section. And this is just going to create a little bit of movement in it. I'm looking to create a heavy shape. I'm not looking to create something that's kind of really, really overly layered. This is just going to create a little bit of invisible layer. Around this front section, I'd like it to sweep a little bit more. So I'm going to over direct it in the opposite direction. Over direction builds up weight in the opposite direction. And I'm going to remove a bit of the length and the weight out of this side. And that's just going to help it sit around a little bit. Maybe keep them drop this camera. There we go. Can you see how that's pushing already? So that's just going to help that swish around a little bit more. Just get this piece of hair behind it. That's kind of still, this hair still pushing that hair down. So you need to do the same thing with this piece of hair. Pick it up, over direct it in the opposite direction. Remove length and weight simultaneously. And when I say length, I don't mean the perimeter length, FYI, just in case anybody's wondering. I mean bulk weight. Lovely. And then also, if you've still got areas that you think are slightly, channel cutting is an option. I don't think this side is particularly in need of it because we've got that big disconnection, flatten the shape out. But on the opposite side, we could do probably a little bit more. Maybe this area just looks a little bit heavy through there. Just a tiny little bit of channel cutting. Comb the hair in the direction you want to cut in and take the weight out like so, and just remove some of the bulk of the hair that way. Lovely job. And then, maybe on this side, you could say to yourself, okay, we've got this kind of shape going on. Maybe we want it to be a little bit slimmer, especially behind the ear here. I know I've come in and kind of sliced some of the hair out, but maybe I want it to be a little bit more. Right then, I'll be here all night if you let me, guys. You know that. I'll be here all night doing this. And I'd have you either up very, very late if you're in Europe. Oh, you can't even see because my hair's in the way. That's how into it I've forgotten that you're even here. Okay, what have we got here? Can't find the live graduated bob you done. Okie dokie. If you can't find it, then go over to, let me just go over to my channel and help you out here. Okay. So there's one called Sassoon Style Graduated Bob, and there's one called Salon Friendly for you guys. So if that helps, right. What I'm going to do is, as I've done with all of these videos, I'm going to go and make sure that I'm kind of refine this too. After I do that, I'm going to just kind of stop at a point where I feel like we're getting somewhere and we're happy with everything and all that jazz. So I'm about there now. It'd be great if we could take the client's head off, although it is much easier to cut a client's head because they're softer. Perfect, lovely. All right then, so what have we got? Well, we have got a lot going on, obviously. Two types of graduation: triangular graduation and square graduation. Triangular graduation on this side to build up the shape, and then we've got a square graduation through here. Then on this side, we just kept everything classic with exception to our round graduation and kind of Princess Di Firefly front section that we then freehand connected into this graduated shape through the back. We then took our second section on this right hand side and cut it square and pulled everything to a traveling guide. So we pulled the first section out, second section onto the first, third onto the second, fourth onto the third, fifth, where we got to the back of the ear. Then we pivoted up from one point and we elevated everything up square. And we pulled everything up square, which created a very large disconnection internally, just like so. Then we just dropped everything down. That was partly to blend in our flatter shape at the back, so we've got a seamless marriage of the two. And then we just went in the refining zone. So with the refining, guys, you saw it, you were there. I just wanted to give you a little heads up. You know, you can refine these things half to death. Little classic, you know, Sassoon-esque dovetail shape at the back to just escalate the weight traveling forward into this area. And when I kind of style it with a bit of hairspray, I really make sure that sits around. You'll see it tomorrow. I'll do a little recap video for everyone like I did previously. And then cut that very square geometric line and just left that tiny little bit of kind of dropped in length through the front there, just for a little quirky change. So that is everything. And I hope you've enjoyed it. I love bringing these lives to you. I know I do my lives for the Patreons, you guys that have joined the Patreon. And I love bringing the lives to you guys. I love bringing the YouTube lives. Hopefully, one day I'll find a way of marrying the two. Hold on a minute. I've seen the bit. Oh no, still there. Hopefully I'll find one day a way of marrying the two things, where I can do more lives on here and more lives on Patreon, and lives coming out my ears. I really, really do enjoy them. So thank you very, very much, guys, for your time. Thank you for joining me. It is always a pleasure and honor for you to spend the time with me. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a lovely evening. Have a lovely afternoon. Have a lovely day wherever you are in the world, and I shall see you all again really, really soon.